Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to Performance Analytics and Reporting Office Hours. Thank you for taking your time out of your day to join us. These sessions are for you. These are intended to give you some new insight, some visibility into some existing functionality, and help you push the limits of what you can do with analytics in your ServiceNow instance. We're here to provide some fresh ideas and give you some practical guidance. So as we go through today, we're going to be talking about things that everybody can do that are in your instance today, not new features, but something we want to make sure that you're looking at. As a reminder, these are recorded, so you can go back and listen to these. If I don't think we'll bring anybody off mute, but if we do, understand that we are recording this. If you're uncomfortable, please let us know that if you ask a question, not to take you off mute. And if you do have a question, please use the Q&A at the bottom in Zoom. We do see the chat, and you can use the chat, but the Q&A helps us make sure that we're able to respond to every question. We don't miss anything. If we use the chat, it can get lost as we go. So we highly encourage you to use the Q&A as we're going. Don't wait till the end. Just if you have a question, go ahead and put it in the Q&A. If we answer it later, you can always dismiss it. But that way, again, we can make sure we address everything and can follow up if we don't get to your question while we're during the presentation. So today we have myself, Adam Stout, as the host. I am here to walk us through and get us started, and we'll close up at the end. Our speaker for today is Thomas Davis. We're both outbound product managers for the platform and Now Intelligence. You should have heard from us before. You'll hear from us again. As I talked about, these are recorded. If this is your first time here, you're welcome. We have all of our previous sessions available in the community where you signed up for this. If somebody forwarded you the invite, if you go into the ServiceNow community, you can find our session, find the page on office hours and the Analytics, Intelligence, and Reporting Forum. You can subscribe so you find out about our new sessions that are coming up. You'll see the schedule, and you'll be able to go back and get all the previous recordings, and not just the recordings, but the decks and a little bit of a understanding about what's going on. Great information there. So if you do miss a week, I recommend going back for it. If you want to, you can subscribe to the YouTube playlist. And so again, if you miss it, you'll find out we post the links for those. The YouTube recording generally gets posted later today or tomorrow. But again, all those are back if you need. And as we're going, we are talking about some specific functionality that comes in, but there is some great functionality that is covered in Now Learning. If you are new to ServiceNow, if you're new to reporting, if you want to learn some more and go further, we highly recommend that you go visit Now Learning. Lots and lots and lots of free self-paced training for you. The knowledge labs are still there. So I encourage you to go there and really get some hands-on experience with ServiceNow, with performance analytics. Amazing content there. Most of it's free for you, self-paced. You get the instances. You can really get some more hands-on experience and take it further than what we're doing in each of our office hours. And also in the community, it is a great place to ask questions. We're going to open up the session once we're through the main presentation for your questions about what we talk about today, but also anything else related to performance analytics and reporting. If we don't get to it, or you don't want to wait 2 weeks, post something in the community. This article that you can find if you search for it, or you'll see the link here, it's just got some great resources about how you can get a good answer to your question. So if you're new to posting in our community, I recommend reading through this. If you follow these guidelines, you're going to get a good answer very quickly. And if you don't, it's sometimes more challenging to get the answer that you're looking for. Okay, and now we are I'm going to turn it over to Thomas Davis, who's going to talk to us about how to use Spotlight and what you can do with it.
All right, Adam, thank you. Let me share my screen here. Let's make sure that I'm sharing the right one. Okay, you can see my screen?
Yep, looks great.
Awesome. All right, here we go. So again, thank you, Adam. My name is Thomas Davis, and I'm sure you all have heard from me before. And like Adam said, you'll definitely hear from us again. But I am an outbound product manager on the Now Intelligence team. And today we're going to talk a little bit about Spotlight, and then kind of look at how we can look at a process to target processes with actual Spotlight itself. So there are videos that are embedded into the slides here. So if the videos are moving fast, that's not me actually at this point. I did create the videos, but just understand, like Adam said before, all of this will be put out on the community, in the community for this particular office hours. So if you're not able to follow along and it moves relatively fast in the videos, no worry, you'll have it to yourself where you can actually watch those videos within those slides again and start and stop. So you can, if you want to use them as maybe you're creating something in your own instance. So just know that I'm not moving that fast as I'm actually talking. Those are pre-recorded, but again, they'll be there for you. All right. So what's the agenda today? So first we're going to talk about what Spotlight is, and then we're going to help you all try to navigate your way through Spotlight and some of the things that you need or to take really good eye to when you're actually looking for things or troubleshooting anything with Spotlight. So we'll show you some of the things there as it relates to that. And then of course we'll do a Spotlight demo at the end. So what is Spotlight? So Spotlight, essentially, it just enables you to prioritize work based on multiple weighted and quickly identifiable high priority tasks. So if there is particular things that you know or your business has decided it is worth much more value than something else, Spotlight gives you the ability to weight those things so they will actually show up in Spotlight, so you can seek those things out, see those things, and actually have them visible to you. And we have a use case that we'll talk about a little bit later. But again, it just gives you the ability to take use cases that you have in your own business and make sure that you can weight them appropriately, so you're actually able to find those and drive actions within your business. So the criteria that you create is based on, again, what you've decided, and we'll talk about criteria a little bit more here in a minute. But here is a document that's right here that actually talks about setting up Spotlight, but we're going to actually show you how to do that as well today. So this is how it would work if you were going to go ahead and set up a Spotlight. So the first thing that you would have to do is create a Spotlight group. And it's just a set of table records that you want to evaluate and rank for importance. The records must be associated with an indicator. And then you have criteria. So it specifies the records you want to evaluate by creating an actual criteria that you associate to the group, right? Or to a particular criteria within the group. So the group itself looks at a particular indicator. And then the criteria says, okay, when I look at this indicator, there are specific things that I want to look at. You can set up the criteria based on breakdown. So if you have a breakdown that's associated to that particular indicator, you can add that into the criteria to look for those a specific breakdown within that indicator. Or you can just query the indicator itself. Maybe there's something that you want to look at that's not within a breakdown. So there's particular things that are associated with the indicator itself that you want to look at, maybe user information or something like that. So it gives you that ability to do that. And then once you have all of that created, your group and your criteria based on what you want to look at within the group, then it'll actually show you the scores after it's actually been executed. So you can do a manual execute on a Spotlight group if you choose to, but it also is set up daily. It's run once a day to actually gather all of those spotlights up, so then you can actually see them on the Spotlight dashboard, and then also the interactive analysis that Spotlight provides as well. So these are the steps, and we'll get into a little bit more detail about that here shortly. So just some housekeeping. So before you start to work with Spotlight, an administrator must activate the Spotlight plugin. When activating Spotlight, consider activating one of the analytics and reporting Spotlight solutions that are already out there. First, see whether one of those solutions already covers your business use case. And then secondly, if you still need to create a Spotlight group or Spotlight criteria, an analytics and reporting solution can be a useful template. So you can actually use one of the existing ones that are out there. But just understand, in order for you to use Spotlight in general, it definitely has to be activated by an administrator within your instance itself. And then you can install those things, and then you can move forward with Spotlight. So again, here in the video, we're actually showing how that process would work. And again, you can go back to that video if it moved too fast for you. So Spotlight guided setups. So this is a great feature within the platform itself, even outside of Spotlight, just in general. Guided setups are a great way to actually become familiar with what is actually inside of a particular thing. And in this case, we're talking about Spotlight. So, you can go through all of that and it'll actually show you the Spotlight groups, the criterias, the jobs that are associated with it, everything that is sort of associated with that. So if you're very new to Spotlight, and again, this works for anything else that has guided setups within the platform itself, this is always a great way for you to become familiar really fast with all of the things that it takes to actually run a specific thing. And in this case, as we're talking about Spotlight. So if you can utilize the guided setups, I would definitely recommend doing that. For Spotlight, and then anything else that's out there as well. So Spotlight interactive analysis. So this shows the key results of a Spotlight job. So it accesses the analysis from a Spotlight group that's been created. Again, maybe one that was already out there or one that you yourself have created. And it actually gives you the ability to see those things directly right there on an interactive analysis form there. So there is a Spotlight dashboard that is out there that comes out of the box as well. But this is another way that you can actually see that information relatively fast directly from the Spotlight group itself. So, quick note: it uses the Spotlight database view. So Spotlight creates database views for each Spotlight group. When you create the group, if the database view is missing, a warning appears, and you have to have the PA Spotlight or admin roles. A link also appears for you to generate the database view itself. So if the database view has not been generated and you end up getting an error on your interactive analysis, it will provide you with a link, a related link to actually generate that database view if you have the PA Spotlight or an admin role. So just be wary of that. So that may happen to a user of yours. They may get that error, and that is a quick indication that you need to go in there and create that database view. And again, it would take an admin or a PA Spotlight role. So here we are talking about the database views. So Spotlight ensures the database view joins the Spotlight table and the facts table whose record records a Spotlight group, whose records that the Spotlight group evaluates. So again, going back to the indicator that it's going to use at that group, Spotlight group level, the Spotlight itself will create a view where it'll join the Spotlight tables with that indicator. So it will then be able to give you the results that you're looking for. So after creating a database view, Spotlight adds in a reference to it, and then the related Spotlight group record and Spotlight group table. The reference consists of primary keys field for the database view, which is in the database view column of the record. So again, we talk a little bit more about the generate database view that is there. But just know that all of the information that is behind Spotlight is derived from a database view that is created once you've created your group and criteria and actually run the job itself. And there you can get a little bit more information. There is a ServiceNow doc that actually talks about the database view itself. So now we've kind of went through some of the housekeeping and, talking about, the database view, the interactive analysis, what you need to do, the steps that you need to do to actually create a Spotlight. So now let's actually look at creating one. So our use case, and again, this may not be a use case for you. You may have your own use cases, but understand that if it's something that definitely needs to be highlighted and weighted, Spotlight is a place that it should be. So our use case is we need to know when we have any P3 incidents where the caller is a VIP, and what is the focus of those incidents. So are those incidents being worked? Are they not being worked? How long have they been out there? Why is someone not jumping on it with it being a VIP? So those are the kind of things that we want to try to get out of creating the Spotlight on this particular use case. So the first thing that we have to do is we have to set up a Spotlight group like we talked about before and check and see first we should check and see if what we're looking for in our use case is already in the Spotlight criteria. So here you can see in the filter navigator, I searched for Spotlight group and then I clicked on the incident spotlight. And now I'm scrolling through looking for, is there anything there that's already works? And in this case, there's not. So I'm going to create a new one, and we just name this P3 VIP. And then again, because there's not a breakdown associated with it, I'm going to select query, and then I'm just going to set my condition directly there. So I'm going to look for where priority is 3, moderate, and then also look for where the caller itself is VIP. So understand, I don't have to put in a state because the indicator itself that the incident spotlight group is using is already looking at number of open incidents. So we know that they are open incidents. So there's no need for me to actually put that into the condition itself. And then I'm just going to go ahead and give it a weight of 1,000. And then you hit submit. And now it is out there. And if we scroll down a little bit, well, I hit launch. But if you scroll down in that list, it'll actually show you that it's sitting there. So that's the first step that we want to do. We just want to create that spotlight criteria inside of the existing incident spotlight group. And that's what we've done there. So continue a little bit more. So now what I need to do is I need to go ahead and execute that. And I executed by clicking on that button, and you can have the tabbed related list here, but this one was scrolling. So if you'll notice here, so it's collecting, and it collected, and we have numbers, and basically the numbers that were there are the same. So now that we know that we've kicked it off, we're going to look at our interactive analysis. So what we have to do is we have to look in our list and see if we can actually see any of those. Now, based on the scores that are out there, there's maybe 1,000 wasn't a high enough weighted. I believe that the first one there is a P3, but I don't know if it's necessarily a VIP or whatnot. And then the one that I set up at 1,000, it just isn't jumping out at me. So I think that we might need to actually weight that a little bit higher, so it'll actually, jump out even more. So if I go down into the list here, I can find that P3, and then I can just double click directly here in the form, and I'm going to change that to 2,500, which is kind of broad. Again, these numbers really come down to what your use case is, but for the case of this, we want to make sure that it actually jumps out. And then we save that, and then we'll just execute it again to make sure that we actually can see it. We'll go down to the job and make sure that it does complete. And it did complete. It's collecting there now. It will complete. And then what should happen is when we go back, hopefully they'll actually sort of jump out to us now, and we'll be able to see those ones where there are P3s and it is a VIP. So we'll go back into our interactive analysis, and now we can see that Gerard Bennett is in fact a VIP. I know because I set him as a VIP. And now we can see all of the ones where there's still open incidents, and the weight has increased, excuse me, has increased pretty substantially now. And that includes not only my weighted, but any other criteria that's actually inside of the incident spotlight group. So it will tell us, one, if it's a P3 and it's a VIP, and then it'll also tell us any of those other criteria that are actually out there. And we'll be able to look at that a little bit more here in a second. So the score details. So this will give us the ability to actually look at what is making up that score that we saw, which I believe was like 3,900 and something. So what we'll do is we'll actually go to one of those incidents, and we'll look at that. So here we'll actually go directly into the form, and here we can see what makes up all of the different criteria that are out there that actually make up that total score that we saw. And what I'll do is when that comes back around, I'll actually pause that, and we'll talk about it for a little bit and help you better understand how the calculation is actually happening. So if the job is running here. So after the job runs, and then we go and look at it, or actually, no, we're looking at the incident. So let's pause it right here. So what's happening here is you can see the P3 VIP that I created and the weighted that it is, which is very high, but we also want them to jump out. So they're definitely jumping out now. So all of these other things, if that was happening to the same incident, it is actually flagged as well. So not only is this a P3 VIP incident, but we can also see that it's older than 14 days. And it's actually older than 90 days as well. Now, this is demo data, so yours may not look exactly the same, but let's just take for an example, if a VIP's incident was sitting there for over 14 days, that's probably an issue. Most likely you've actually probably heard about it. But if you have not, these are ones that you want to jump out because you want to make sure that you take care of those VIPs in this particular use case. Again, it could be something else for whatever you're looking for. But this is important to see. This lets us know that, you know, we have a VIP that is sitting out there, and a particular incident is sitting out there that's older than 2 weeks or 28 days or whatnot. Um, or you know, maybe, you know, well, it's out there because I don't know what's going on with it because the description is empty. Well, hopefully someone would have already figured that out, but if they haven't, this gives you the ability to actually see that on the fly anytime that you need to. So again, try to think of it as, what use case can I generate around something like this, of the hot topic things or big ticket incident items or request change problem, whatever it is that you know needs to be taken care of, obviously faster in a more timely manner than something else. Not saying that all incidents are not important, but we also know that there are particular ones that definitely do drive more attention than other ones. So again, that total score of 3,900, I think in 10, is because it's made up of all of the things that we see here within the actual criteria that it actually flagged when the job itself ran. So the interactive analysis, which is what we actually looked at, gives us the ability to actually drill down into that data quite a bit. So here we're actually going to go into it. We're going to go into the interactive analysis, Spotlight interactive analysis, and then we can see that there's some numbers there. But maybe you want to actually click directly into an incident and see something. So here you can actually see that. Oh, let me go back. Now, that's not a great deal of information itself there. But what we should do, or what we can do, is we can actually add information to that particular form. So that way we can make it have more value and give us more information that we need directly inside that interactive analysis form. So you don't have to go all over the place to maybe find out information. We'll do that directly in here. And that's what we'll do. So in this case, we actually, I think I went too far into it. Let's play it again. So in this case, we're actually just going to configure the form. So we're going to right click in the header and we're going to go configure form layout. And then we're just going to add fields directly from the incident table. So it knows those fields that are out there. We'll grab those over. This is probably very familiar to you, maybe something that you've done quite a few times. Nothing new, just adding information that you need directly into that form so it has more value. So then we're going to move over the caller, the priority, the state, move those around how we want them actually to be viewed. And then when we save it, the information will actually be directly there. So again, this, you know, you add as much as you want, as least as you want, what you think has actual value. So then when you're looking at it or someone else is looking at it, they can get, you know, direct information from it to, again, respond to the particular incident, in this case, that's being highlighted in the spotlight itself. So there are some ones that I moved, moving things around here, and eventually I'll click save. Let's get rid of that. We'll get rid of that. We'll move state and priority up and job description. Short description. And then we'll hit save, move score down, short description up. And now when we hit save, we'll actually be able to see better information based on that particular spotlight. But we can actually go further as well, and we'll do that in the next slide. So why don't we actually see the scores directly on that same page? So let's add those. So again, we'll just go right back to that. But the thing is, what we have to do is we actually have to create a relationship between the spotlight information and that particular form. So if you've not created relationships before, this is how we would do that. So we would go to relationships, we would click new, we'd add a new one. And in this case, we're going to name this Spotlight Audit. And the table that it applies to is Incident Spotlight itself. That's what we're going to look for. And the queries from table and it's Spotlight Audit. So that's the form that we were looking at, or the information that came from. So that's what we're going to attribute it to. So we need to add a line of code. So because even us here at ServiceNow are not perfect. You'll probably notice that I made some syntax errors in this when I actually typed it in. So, and I actually didn't catch that until after I hit save for the very first time. But the line of code is correct that you're actually seeing in the slide. So that's what you actually want to put in there. So again, you can create that relationship and then see those scores directly on that same form. And in case you're curious, the syntax that is wrong is the C is capital. There was supposed to be a space where I have the equals, and then I put SUSID, not SysID, which I actually saw after I clicked save. And then I actually went back in there and changed that, and I'll highlight it here in a second. So syntax is important, obviously. So I need to change that there. And I did actually forget to change the current, but I went back in there and changed that as well after the fact. So now that we've done that, we actually can go back to our Spotlight interactive analysis, and then we can add in what we've just added. So in this case, we'll go in there, the same thing, we'll click into an actual incident record, and then we'll right click at the top and we'll configure our form layout. And in this case, I actually added a, getting to it. So we created another section and then we added it directly to it. And then I'll click save. And you'll notice, let me pause this. You'll notice that there's some 18,880 records. Well, that is wrong because some of my syntax is still wrong. And the syntax that is wrong is the capital C and the space. So again, I actually went back in there and changed that. And when I did, there was actually 8 records, but I didn't add it into the demo here. So just be conscious of your syntax, that it is correct. And again, what you're seeing here in the slide is actually correct. You can copy that directly from it and add that, into it, and it'll actually work and show you that. And then I go on to actually just rearrange some columns here to what has better value and visible. So I can actually do something from it. So, again, a lot of information, but, again, depending on what your use case is, you can get really good information out of Spotlight, and highly recommend that you definitely use it for whatever the needs are that you have. So again, in conclusion, Spotlight gives you the ability to weight what is most important to you. When you put a weight on the results, it'll show you what is most important at that time. Spotlight also gives you the ability to see things that maybe a regular dashboard does not highlight enough that it jumps out at you. Think of different use cases that you can drive better outcomes from your business and create a spotlight around it. So again, there is a Spotlight dashboard that is out there, and you can add, you can create a report from something that is in Spotlight, and you can add it to that particular dashboard. So again, if it's something that drives value, or if there's something that that you need to react to faster than maybe is currently doing, and you don't necessarily have a way of highlighting that, Spotlight is definitely the way to do it. It doesn't get used as much as it should. It should be used a whole lot more. So if you can find, some value in it, definitely highly recommend that, you actually use it. So some resources. So there is a lot of Spotlight information that's actually in ServiceNow documentation. Everything that you saw that I did today in this slide, you can get all of the directions to do the same thing directly in the ServiceNow documentation. And there are some community documentation that's out there. There actually was another office hours that was done last year that looked at Spotlight a little bit differently than this particular one. And there are there is a blog that's out there that was wrote around it as well. And there's definitely, like Adam was referring to earlier, some Now Learning and some Knowledge 20 information that's out there, some courses and Knowledge 20 courses that you could definitely go to that actually highlight some Spotlight information in there as well. So take advantage of that if you can. And with that, are there any questions? I see the Q&A was very quiet, so either I'm very boring or the questions are too dynamic.
Well, thanks, Thomas, as you go through it and as we see what questions come in. And again, if you have questions about Spotlight or how you could use it or anything else related to performance analytics and reporting, please go ahead and put those in the Q&A. Um, but I'll say when I use Spotlight, we focus on incidents. There's incident change problem that's out of the box to get you started. But the thing that I go back to when I look at it is it's not about prioritization, because the priority should use the priority, right? But it helps me understand, is am I setting the right priorities? If I want to evolve my priorities or change things differently, I might use Spotlight to help look at my backlog and look what's going on, to help you find the process problem, right? Not a tactical, what do I need to do next? That should be the priority. But we all know that not all incidents are created, not all changes are created equal, not all problems are created equal. And rather than having to go through and read 1,000 problems or 1,000 stories and go, what should I be doing? I can use this to help me go through that and find the ones that I know are more valuable. Old ones are a problem. Important business services, I need to keep my eye on that. And it allows me to really to quantify the different aspects I have in my mind. And one of the key things that's less used but works extremely well is I'll put in some that have negative points. So something that is in a certain state, like my active backlog, if it is awaiting customer input, maybe I'll give that negative 1,000 points. Says I don't care about anything else. If you're doing this, I don't want to see it. But it helps me get to that list. So if I have 1,000 things in my backlog, maybe I'm coming down to 100 that I'm going to look at. Maybe it's down to 50, and I'll adjust the threshold to see what's important and what's not, and help me focus in on those. And then I ask myself, why did we miss this? Why did we get here? And I'm going to look at my process overall to understand uh, this is what's important to me. This is what was missed. I'm going to go back and add a business rule, or maybe I need to figure out a different way of assigning incidents to different categories, or just talk to my team and say, when you see this, let's handle it a little bit differently. Maybe it's a separate SLA. We use the case of VIP because it all happens to us, right? Some executive has a problem. I have to treat it. If my CEO's printer is out of ink, I need to handle that differently than if just random printer is out of ink, perhaps. Um, this allows me to step back and go, you know what? I need to have a different SLA if the caller is a VIP. I need to have a different SLA if the service, if it's a critical service or it's an external facing service. Before I go implement all my SLAs, I can start going through and I can go back and look and analyze Spotlight. And Spotlight is very iterative. You won't get your weightings right the first time. So you're going to put in what you think, run it, and take a look and go, well, it's too many. I can't look at all those. I'm going to adjust it. Or the ones that are coming to the top, those really aren't the most important ones to me. So it's meant as a tool, as an analyst, to help go through the data and evaluate it, and then trend it over time to see how are we doing, and look at what's coming in and out. And when you use it in that spot, it's incredibly powerful, very useful for you, and lets you really organize your thoughts. That's the way I approach it. And that it also helps me look at some things on what fields, what do I want to put into some machine learning, right? What do I see is really helping me? But it's again, that tool to help me organize my thoughts, quantify them, and adjust them so that I have really what I'm looking for. A question came in, Thomas, that can Spotlight be leveraged within various workbenches, like the Change workbench?
I mean, I have never seen that actually used. I don't know, Adam, have you ever actually seen that
Well,
used?
When we're looking at things, as we look at it, the Spotlight records, there's nothing magical about it. They are records. We expose them in the view, as Thomas showed. So any place we can, as long as we can customize what we're looking at, we can put it in there. We can run PA on it. We can show the list on a dashboard. We can quantify how many are lit up. So any place in the platform where you have it, you can put it in there. In the workbench, if that is the service portal version of the workbench, you should be able to configure it and add new things to it. And it can be really helpful. Again, because I can look at so much criteria, can I use it to give me a little bit more information, right? Again, because we can put all those weighting things in, we can have lots of that query criteria or other PA things. It can help me quickly see what's going on, quickly give me an indicator of some type of risk. that's going to go on that is record by record. So when we combine this with PA, so PA allows me to look at my aggregates, and I can use my formula indicators to look at the aggregate information, and I can pull that and display it. This is looking record by record. What is the score for this change, for this incident? And again, help me understand the value we get is where we identify we have a hole in our process. When I break it down piece by piece, I think this should be high priority, but I'm giving it a low priority. Something is wrong with my process. Something's wrong with my prioritization. That's what Spotlight is to help you do, right? It is meant for the process owner to really dig into that process, dig into what's going on. And again, any place it is creating records. So any place we can see records, which should be pretty much everything, we can expose the data.
Yeah, Adam, and that next question actually makes me think about what you're going to be doing next on the next office hours. Essentially, is taking information and setting up, workflows or whatnot. So again, if there's records out there and they're exposed, I mean, this is definitely something that can be done as well, right?
Yeah, so this could be a good one. So the question that we got was, can Spotlight records be scheduled to be emailed to assignment groups if they have active records? And this is only like 95% of our use case for a couple of weeks from now. So we'll get to what we're going to talk about in the next office hours. But yes, I can certainly schedule a report. It is records in a table. I can create a report and send it out. So normal scheduled reports are going to go to a list of people. Any particular manager or assignment group could sign up and say, if I have any, send it to me. We're going to talk about burst reporting in a couple of weeks, and we will look at this use case specifically about, I run Spotlight. I have records in the Spotlight, again, which are my exceptions. Spotlight helps you see the exceptions. We can go through and then email the managers for those assignment groups that have records that are above the threshold for the Spotlight. Okay, another question. Let's see, mark that. About not about Spotlight, but about PA and solutions for Agile and story backlog and trending on what's going on there. There are a couple of newer content packs in this area, specifically dealing with SAFe, and I think there is a new Agile one that came out in Paris or Paris timeframe. I believe it's in the store, but there have been some new things in the last few months in this area. I don't know if it has what you're looking for, because I know we get this question regularly, so it depends when you looked. There are new things coming in. In that space, there are new visualizations and new things coming out, whether they're moving into workspace or in the classic or more content packs. They're coming out, and for the follow up to that is, are they fee based? For performance analytics, they're included. So we don't charge for any particular content pack, but some of them, if you do require PA, then they require PA. But if you can build it, you need to have the entitlement to run PA on that data. And if that's the case, if we build a content pack, then you're entitled to use it. If you're not entitled to run PA on that solution, then the content pack, you can't just buy the content pack. But that's the same for everything. So if I have an ITSM content pack and I have ITSM standard, I can't get that content pack. But if I have ITSM Pro, anything dealing with ITSM would come in. I'm not sure in the Agile space where that comes from, but there's certainly, I know with ITBM, which I think it's in that space, ITBM always comes with PA at this point. So just look at your solution, but there's no premium content pack that is separate. We don't charge for the analytics. If you are entitled to build them yourselves, we want to give them to you so you can save some more time. Okay, another one came in having to do with indicator sources and seemed to be CI. So CMDB CI, sorry, or CMDB table, and I'm looking through all my CIs as a facts table. I will start out by saying that when you are creating indicator sources on CMDB CI, there is some tuning that's involved in some potential performance issues, because CMDB can certainly be in the millions of records, and we need to query my entire active record base. A million's fine, 10 million, 20 million, we can see some, we can handle it, but it's not completely limitless. And specifically, there is a setting on how many records that can come back is important. The default number of records in an indicator source out of the box is 50,000 records, which is most of our CMDBs are going to be quite a bit larger than 50,000 CIs. You can raise that. In Paris, the best option is not to raise your default. You want to leave your default at 50,000, 100,000, somewhere in that range. But for my specific indicator sources on CMDB CI, I am going to expand. I'm going to expand that indicator source. In Paris, there's a new setting to say how many records can this indicator source support, and then we have a much better option about saying for my indicator source on CMDB CI, that can be 10 million records, but just generic indicator source we're going to leave it at 50,000. And the question from CMDB CI has to then go to vulnerable items. I will say with vulnerable items, there is a lot of tuning that's involved to get what you want. You want to use the content pack that comes with the SecOps vulnerability response. Before I would not try to build my own vulnerability response indicators. I would use the content pack. From there, and just like everything, start with the content pack. If it's not meeting your needs, then you can expand onto that. And make sure so you have the content pack, which is great. Just make sure you have the latest version of it. And if you've gone through upgrades, there are, in general, performance analytics has some issues with upgrades because we really don't like to change indicators out from underneath you. So if you are upgrading to your content packs, I'd recommend going through and spin up a dev instance from the developer portal. You can get a dev instance, install the new content pack, or make sure you read the release notes on what's new, because some of the things you have to manually update, because again, if you're looking at a dashboard, you have a certain indicator, we don't change it from underneath you. We want you to make sure you acknowledge, even if we think this is better, you need to say, yes, I do want this change. But if you have a question about a specific setting for vulnerability response, I would post it in the community and we can try to get you the answer. Or if you want to reach out through your AE into the vulnerability response organization, we can try and get you some help. But it's vulnerability response has certainly got some caveats in there on what will work and what won't. And you want to be careful with that. The enhancements we had in Paris for PA were specifically designed for vulnerability response. So there is a lot you can do, but just we got to be careful about it. Okay. So a question came in about forecasting, and I can understand that forecasting is the settings are a bit odd. It's the way certainly the way I look at it. That the forecasting periods, if I have a daily indicator, I believe the forecasting period is 7 days, and there is not. In what we have today, there's not an option to change that. So you can change the number of periods, but the question is, can I change what a period is? Can a daily indicator be a day as a period instead of a week? And it's documented in the developer document, or in the ServiceNow documentation about what the periods are for each frequency. So I believe a daily indicator is a week. For a monthly indicator, a period is, I think, a year. It's either 3 months or a year, and that can sometimes be a little different than what you're looking for. And I believe I just got the documentation to put in. Yeah, the 12 months, the monthly is 12 months, and I actually only want to forecast 3 months. That's not changeable today. If that's something you'd like to have, I'd put an idea in for that. so we can make sure we trace that back. I don't know if there's one in there about being able to tune those. There's a reason they are the way they are is to catch seasonality better. But I certainly can understand the use case where I only want to forecast 3 months, maybe even with the seasonality, but only show me 3 months because I know 12 months out is just not realistic anymore. And if you are adjusting the forecasting settings, make sure you do look at that documentation, because the number of periods is not a period for forecasting is different than the period for the indicator, because we are integrating in that seasonality. So I think the answer is right now no, but please put an idea in so that we can better address that and possibly integrate that in a future release. Thomas, a question for you. My incident spotlight was inactive and I activated it. And once the dashboard, once it has some results, I need to modify the criteria to filter out a few assignment groups. How do I remove the results to update the spotlight scores?
Yeah, I was actually looking for a doc that we had on that to actually give the correct information on it.
Well, when you do run it again, it'll mark those initial ones inactive. So in the spotlight, in the audit, not in the audit, in the spotlight records, I believe there's an active and inactive field, and we mark the old ones inactive if they're not found.
Yeah. So you're saying that once you change the criteria for a particular one to then in effect remove or only look for specific assignment groups, and you run it again, it won't show those the other ones. That's what you're saying, right?
Yes, right.
Yeah.
There should be an inactive flag. So you're looking for the active flag is true in what's spotlight. I need to take a look what that field is, but I believe that's there.
Yeah, that's what I was looking for too.
All right, if you want to take a look for it, but I believe there's a flag for it. On the other side, you can just delete all the records. You can just go in and manually delete them from the spotlights. They'll be regenerated. As I said, I treat this very much as an iterative process that I'm going for, and my first few attempts are not necessarily good. They're what I think, but what I think and what is reality are not always aligned. So I'm going to go through and run it multiple times, and it is intended to show you kind of what got fixed, where they deleted from. So if I, Thomas, do you have Spotlight up? Do you want to show how we can delete them or what the active is?
Sure, I can bring it up. Let me get it here.
So the Spotlight audits are the records that they're the individual details. So that's not low, or that's too low of a level from what you're looking for. But I think if we look into the Spotlight groups, you should just see them in the related list as spotlights.
Yeah, right here. There's the spotlights right here.
And there isn't the active flag. So what you're going to be looking for generally is where the active flag is true. But in subsequent runs, if it's no longer a spotlight record, then you'll see the active is false. So we update all the ones that are not there to be false. But you'll see it right in the spotlight groups. You will see the spotlights related list where you can delete them from.
Yeah, and I don't have any that are active. So I mean, or false. Sorry.
Okay. It didn't. Yeah, I don't know why they wouldn't be inactive. I'd have to look at that use case as to why it's not, because I would expect it to be there if they're not in there. But particularly if I'm just getting started and I'm saying these should never have been lit up, that was just kind of more of a configuration error to me, then I'm just going to delete them and start over. Keeps it a little bit clean to get going, and I'll look through it.
Oh yeah, and I'll get back to Russell on this. I'll figure this out and get back to him.
Great. Okay, next question, and we have a few more minutes, so go. Feel free to throw those into the Q&A. In a formula indicator, I want to use the last day of the month, but could not figure out how to do that, and ended up the month average. I need to look. I think we did something. You're going to want to use a formula indicator for this, and feel free to post something in the community, and we'll give you the example. if we haven't done it recently, maybe we'll do another office hours early next year on using the PA formulas. So I believe in Madrid we introduced the PA formula utils, and what you're going to end up doing is getting a score from the date, and the short answer is you use score start. So when you're in formulas, we have score start. There is a score end, but I will just tell you what score end is not what you think it is. So I only use score start in my formulas. And with score start, it's a glide date time object. And with that glide date time object, I'm able to add, if I want the last day of the month on a monthly indicator, I am going to take my score start, add a month, and then subtract a day. Months, the end of the month is always a bit challenging because we have different numbers of days, but add months does add a month, whether it's February or July, it adds a month. So you take score start, you add a month to it, then you subtract a day from it, and that is the last day of that month. So if you post that in the community, I'll get you a little code snippet that does it. And if we haven't gone through it recently, which it would be a while if we haven't done it, we'll do an office hours on using formula indicators, using the functions, the formula functions, the PA formula utils inside of formulas to do a little bit more manipulation. And specifically, if you want to get the last day of the month from a backlog, if I have the use case that formulas were really for the formula utils was built for was something similar to this, to say, I want to get the backlog. So I have a daily backlog, but then I want a monthly roll up, right? I do want to see my backlog every day, but then I want to take a step back. I just want to get what was the backlog on the last day of the month. A lot of times I can get by saying what's the first day of the next month, but we still have some date manipulation to go through, and the formula utils let us do that. So again, we'll cover in ops hours, but if you post something in the community, we'll get you an answer a bit quicker. And we have a question about historical collections. And I will say, when we get into the historical collections, there's a couple previous office hours that talk about the time shifting that goes on. So if we don't answer it in enough detail now, feel free to ask a follow-up question. But we do go a little bit more depth in some of those previous office hours on data collection. Thomas did one recently, and there's one from back that goes into a little bit more detail about time shifting specifically. But the question we have is, if I run a historical collection job with relative 6 months ago, and my created and updated fields are set to before today, will the collection use a relative date back of 6 months ago, or will it be a static today? And the answer is it's adjusted. So all the date fields, in some versions, in some older versions, there is an issue with related list conditions not time shifting correctly. But in the main conditions, if we exclude related list conditions, the main conditions, whenever you use a date in the date picker, whether it's today or this month or next month or anything but a constant. If you pick a constant date, it's a constant date. But if you're using today or last week or last year or this quarter, those are all time shifted into what the data collector is. So what physically happens is, when I say I have a daily indicator and it's saying before today, like things closed before or opened before today, created before today. And then actually I will go back. If I'm going to use created before today, it runs, if I'm running a daily job for 6 months, it actually runs the indicator source. It runs it 180 times. It's querying and it's adjusting the date every time we want to go back, So it is shifting through all those. The caveat being is created on doesn't change, but updated does. So updated is generally not safe to do a historical collection, because I'm updating all the time, right? If I have an incident that's been open for 6 months, my last update was yesterday. My last date was always yesterday. But created on, resolved on, closed on, things that don't change or don't change very often. If they change, they get better, they get more accurate. Those are okay, but be very, very, very careful about querying historically on updated. Understand the data is most likely not correct. It may be directionally correct enough, but that's up to you to decide. Whereas created, it takes quite a bit of work to update created, and created is never updated, by design. So you should be safe with that time shifting. and Sukron, one of our stars in support, chimed in that when you do rerun the job, it should delete and insert the new spotlight scores for that group. So it should automatically delete them, which should be good. I think the active flag might be from a previous version. In Paris, a couple of highlights in Paris. So as we look at different versions, just to make sure we call these out. In Paris, you have the ability to copy a spotlight job. I believe that's when we introduced that functionality. So that if I have two groups and they have two different sets of criteria, that's okay. We can support it. So I can have my incident group, my spotlight group on open incidents, but then if my external facing just has a very different different set of criteria than my internal facing, I can copy that and select which breakdown I want to use. So to be able to use it on different sets of data, I'm going to filter if my superset of data comes from an indicator, and if I need to filter that based off of breakdown, I can do that, and I can just simply copy it to adjust. You don't have to build from scratch every time. And then I believe we improved domain separation in Paris. So Spotlight was the same for a few releases, but if you're pre-Paris and I believe it was Paris, although perhaps it was Orlando. I apologize. In the Orlando Paris timeframes, we did make some changes. So if it looks a little different, make sure you look at the release notes on what we did. There were some enhancements that came from customer requests that got put in. So I know we added the support for domain separation, making it copy. That's all there. And Sukron is telling me that it was Orlando. So it's the difference between Orlando. Yes, it does support domain separation now, but I don't think it originally did. Both Sukron can correct me if I'm wrong there too. So again, look at those, look through the release notes of what's in there, because you will see some of those minor enhancements come through. Okay, with that, I think we're going to wrap up. So I am going to share my screen. Okay, so again, thanks, Thomas, for walking us through Spotlight and how we can use it. Hopefully that gives you some of us insight on what how we can use Spotlight and how it fits the needs. It is not it's not going to change everything we do, but it's a really powerful tool for the right use cases. So make sure you think about what's the right tool to use here. And Spotlight again is just a very powerful option for you. And PowerPoint crashed on me, which is great. So as we wrap up, basically we want to go through to say, remember that there's a lot of content in Now Learning. If you haven't done that, great content in the community. There's a lot of blogs and things that are out there. If you have a question, like we had with the formula indicators, please feel free to post it in there. Again, screenshots on what you've done, what's not working. Explain what you're trying to get and what you are getting. When you put all that in there, it really helps us get you an answer very quickly without telling you to do something you've already done. But if we don't know you've done it, then we'll start from there. So we have the community. We are in the process of formulating what we're going to talk about for the next few months in office hours. So please look for that posting that we have. And I know some of you have put in some suggestions on what you'd like to see covered. Please add to that in the next week or so. Is a really great time to do that. As we're forming what we're going to be talking about in the next few months, we want to talk about what you want to hear about. So please let us know. And what we are going to talk about in 2 weeks is an add-on to using analytics in our workflow that we covered a few sessions ago. We're going to specifically walk through the use case of creating a burst reporter. So the use case that came up that we will cover is I run Spotlight. I have some records that are lit up. I want to send a report to the managers of the assignment groups that have records in Spotlight. The same use case works if we just want to say who has open backlog, who has breached SLAs. I don't want to send an email to every manager in a distribution list, which is something we can do now. And I don't want to have every manager go create their own scheduled report. So we're going to create a workflow that says, I want to send this report to the managers that have that qualify in this list. So really, I know it's something we get asked for a lot. Doing it out of box is it's not supported out of box, but we're going to see how to build that in a workflow so that you have that available to use when you need it. All right. So once again, thanks for joining us. Thank you, Thomas, for the presentation, and we look forward to seeing you again in 2 weeks. And for those of you in the U.S., have a happy Thanksgiving, and we'll talk to you in December.
Thanks, Adam.